Hi, you're listening to Collectively Speaking by the Birthday Collective, a bottom-up initiative to develop ideas about Singapore's future. Welcome to this space, where Birthday Book alumni have conversations about the things that matter to them, to us, and to Singapore. We hope that you will be a part of the many conversations we will have, or perhaps to even start your own. And now, onward with the episode.
Hi everyone, welcome to the podcast. So this is brought to you by the Birthday Collective. I'm Hazim, and this podcast will be looking at grown-up initiatives and how do you help your community. So with me, we have, and very happy to have, Tavis as well as Adriel. So for the very first question, and this will be directed to Adriel first, what do you think community in Singapore looks like? And do you think it's changed over the years?
So my essay actually talks about the fondness I have with geographical communities. Growing up, geographical communities were a big part of my life, and it was something I felt very strongly about. But as I grew older, I began to become more involved in cause-based communities and virtual communities with the advent of social media, of course. I think that this is something that a lot of organizations are grappling with, community organizations, whether geographic in nature. So for instance, I think the People's Association is grappling with the issue of how youths today are not as involved with the grassroots and geographical organizations. Back in 2015, when I just joined the grassroots organization and started out doing youth engagement, it was a very big issue because it was very difficult to attract new members on board and even to get them to participate in our activities. And I think people were a lot more interested with the advent of environmental activism and different cause-based activism as well. But I think during COVID, community in Singapore became a lot more geographical again in nature because of how people were confined to their homes, and you see hyper-local initiatives that support each other, and you see neighbors reaching out to each other. You see the rise of mutual aid hubs where people are supporting each other in a very geographical sense. So I think we will continue to see the rise of, or rather the return to the strong sense of geographical community in Singapore in the time to come.
And actually, Tavis, you mentioned about COVID-19 and how that kind of shaped community as well in your essay. So would like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think what Adriel said was something that I really resonated with during COVID-19. I think that I wanted to help out within my community. I wasn't sure how I could do it. So I turned to the People's Association, right? And the immediate help that I could, in a way, give was to the people around me. And it was within the blocks, the immediate blocks that were beside me. So again, it was also very geographical. I couldn't go too far because of COVID-19. And the reach was also rather, in a way, it's not as far-reaching as outreach could have been because of COVID-19. So Adriel was absolutely right in terms of how it is geographically spread out. When COVID-19 happened, one thing that I was thinking about was which groups of people needed aid the most, and how was aid given to these people, right? So even before COVID-19, people were already getting help from the community centers. So what struck my mind was, okay, now it's COVID-19, I think you're still getting the same aid. And in a way, answering your bigger question as to how community has changed in Singapore, or in a way, how I view community. Before I got involved in grassroots volunteering as well, community to me didn't extend out to the people that I lived with, right? So to me, community was my friends, my family, as what I written in my essays as well. And it was only recently when I was looking at the immediate geographical distance, as Adriel would have put it too, right, around me, that I included into my circle of community, and that was where I wanted to help out in a way, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Actually, very interesting that both of you mentioned there's this trend towards more geographical locations, because some may say that in the time of COVID-19, technology has helped bridge that kind of even though there may be geographical disparities, like someone in let's say Geylang could literally Skype or like Zoom call with someone in let's say Jurong East, and I think that's where a lot of befriending services have been going on. So do you think like things like technology would still or would play a part in building this sense of community in Singapore?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the things that really facilitate that return to geographical communities was in fact technology. You see the rise of mutual aid hubs, which really focused on, how could someone living in Geylang provide the immediate necessities that another person living in Geylang would need, right? And I think that, the rise of WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, even Facebook groups, all these are parts or means where people are leveraging on technology and social media to strengthen bonds within their own geographical communities. And I think, when you have such platforms, it becomes easier for people to know each other and to think of ways where they can build on this community that they have in a more physical sense. I think that is what we might see after COVID-19, where COVID-19 was really about, introducing people together, allowing them to initiate that first point of contact by, acts of kindness, supporting each other. But perhaps after COVID-19, we might see people deepening this sort of bonds through working on things together, whether ground-up initiatives or supporting the elderly, or even just contributing to community building events within their geographical neighborhoods.
Yeah, definitely. I think that technology has helped to disseminate information. And during the pandemic and COVID-19, information was something that was lacking, right? I think all of us were trying to find out what can we do, what can we not do, what's the extent of the things that we can do as well. Specifically speaking, I think that in as much as technology does bridge this gap, there are certain things that tech can't really do. One, for technology to be effective, you need both parties, or rather all the parties, to be engaged on the same platform, right? But for an example, when I volunteer with my grassroots, right, we deliver these essential items to low-income families. These low-income families are typically also people who are not as technologically literate, so they don't really use their handphones or tablets or computers. They don't really go out much as well, but they do require certain aid, so we bring these food aids to them. In a way, tech can't bridge this gap with them, or rather it's difficult for them to get access to these levels of technology as well, especially so if they are a little bit older, right? But what technology can do is to rally the people around us. So people like myself and yourself and Adriel, right? When we see that there is this need, right, when information is disseminated through technology, we're able to come together and then help those who do not have that kind of access. So I do think that tech does help to bring community together, but fundamentally, ground up initiatives, right? So going down to houses, so engaging with physical community spaces. I think that's super very important.
I think that's really interesting. I think like when you mentioned about how like technology helps like proliferate or like helps like start up these ground up initiatives because it brings back people together. I think like both of you, like when you guys helped out, it was using like social media technology, and I think just fundamentally, what do you think spurred you to start helping like other associations, other organizations, or even starting your own ground up initiatives?
Yeah, so for me, I'm involved with this nonprofit organization called Access, which basically provides a range of career exploration and self-discovery programs, especially mentorship to students from neighborhood secondary schools. For me, that was really paying forward a debt of gratitude for the mentors I've had and the mentorship I've received over the years. Some of my closer friends would know that my parents divorced when I just entered secondary school, and I had started to hang out with friends I met through online gaming. I spent a lot of time at the LAN shop over the weekend, stayed out really late, and actually nearly retained at the end of secondary too. So I was shifting around from my uncle's place to my mother's new place, and because of that, it was easy to hide from my parents where I was and hang out with friends very late into the night. But I was really fortunate to have a few good teachers who were like mentor figures for me in my upper secondary years. They really coached me academically, went way beyond what they needed to do in supporting me with my studies after school, and also giving me opportunities to build up that self-confidence and to aspire for bigger things beyond secondary school. So when the opportunity came to do my part, I really resonated with the mission of the nonprofit organization, or rather, it was a ground-up initiative at a point in time. And I said, yes, I would love to help. Where can I help? And I think it was a very serendipitous encounter of just meeting people I didn't know beforehand at an event where we were having discussions on inequality and each of us wanted to do more rather than just simply discuss the problem. And that was when Access was born, and many more conversations were had, and eventually we launched a few programs over the years.
Do you want to share about like some of the programs that you've that Access has started?
Yep. So we mainly do career exploration programs. So pre-COVID, we were running office tours for students to get an inside look into some of the top companies that Singapore has. And we also got these companies to feature some of their employees who took a longer academic route, people who who didn't really fit into a traditional smooth path of success, so that these kids could see alternative paths of success. And that was one thing we felt was very empowering for the students. The other part was, of course, work attachments. I think students these days don't really have equal opportunities when it comes to work attachments. I've heard anecdotally of how some friends or students of certain schools do get more opportunities than students from other schools. And so it was something that we felt was a gap that we needed to plug. And along the way, we found many organizations that were willing to take in students to do mini projects for a short span of 1 week, or for them to shadow employees within their organizations. And of course, lastly, we run mentorship programs where students are paired one-to-one with a mentor who supports them in understanding themselves better, and also to support students who have some sense of what sort of post-secondary options or career options that they are thinking of, and to encourage and build that self-confidence so that they continue on that path.
Honestly, that's really a wonderful initiative. I think like especially like youths like us, like doing initiatives to help other people as well. Tevis, how about yourself? Like, we don't like take a stab at the question. Like, what motivated you to like start helping out?
Yeah, I think growing up, I've really enjoyed CIP projects, right? So in school, like, I think I really loved these CIP projects. I remember that one of the requirements was 100 hours, right, in secondary school. I had like 280 hours, you know. It's really not flex, but it's really just me trying to express how much I really enjoyed CIP projects. But when COVID hit, one thing that I was wondering to myself was what can I do? Staying at home just didn't feel right. I wanted to do something. I wanted to help people. I really loved engaging people. I really love working and talking to people. So I really wanted to help my community. And so I reached out to the People's Association, right? I reached out to the grassroots. And just asked them where was at lack. In a way, like, what can I do, right? You use me, right? How can I be of help? So immediately, one thing that was lacking was volunteers to give out these essential items to these houses, because initially we used to give them food vouchers. But even for these old folks, going out to the market or going out to NTUC to buy these items in COVID-19 was also rather dangerous, or rather we also didn't want them to travel, right? So we got these items for them. So volunteers were lacking, so I joined them to do that. And later on, it was really, again, I think, as what you've mentioned, right, plugging these holes. So for example, we needed volunteers to give out trays to get the tokens, and then as we were activated to help out with these items. Helping out with youth programs took a back seat because of redistribution of manpower, right? There weren't any more of these programs happening around. So a lot of the manpower was targeted towards helping giving out these essential items and tokens around the estates. Or even mass distributions too. Yeah, so I think it was just seeing what was needed at that point in time, and do we have enough people, and how can I be of help?
Actually, it's very interesting. I think like in the time of pandemic, we see there are two ways in which like Singapore can go, right? It's either we really rally around together and we help each other, and then or we could like be more divisive, especially in the time of pandemic. But then It's interesting because before the COVID-19 and everything, there were a lot of notions and trends about how Singaporeans themselves are, or Singaporean youth as well, apathetic to social issues. So do you have what's your take on that actually?
On whether or not Singaporeans are
Apathetic, yeah, to social issues.
I don't think Singaporeans are apathetic to social issues. Rather, the people that I've spoken to, right, people that I've engaged with, they're also very cognizant and aware of the social issues that are happening in Singapore, right? Be it inequality, be it what's lacking. So for example, there's also seniors on campus, right, who are engaged with the Open Home Network. So it's also there's this organization that helps with those that require a home in Singapore. They connect people together, right? They're also very, very much aware of a different need within the community. I don't think that Singaporeans or youths are apathetic towards social issues. I think the biggest challenge is access to help, or rather, removing this inertia, right? To want to be involved. I think we are aware of what's happening. People want to be a part of it, but it's always the first step of actually getting started that's most difficult. It's either because people don't know where to go to help, or how to ask how can I help with the relevant organizations or different platforms that they can engage with. I think that's also a challenge. It could also be, I guess, challenging to put yourself out there at times, right, in a group of strangers. Usually we're more comfortable when we're volunteering with friends who are already volunteering existingly. Then we connect with them, and then yeah. But if we are trying to enter into a foreign space, right, a space that is unfamiliar to us, then I think that's also where the inertia would be. I don't think we're apathetic, but I think it's just a little bit challenging to take the first step.
Yeah, so I think for me, and I actually really resonate with what Tavis said about people not knowing what sort of avenues they can step forward to contribute, and not having found the right activator yet so far. So I remember back when I was really young, I would often see grassroots leaders as people who I guess had certain leadership qualities, and I didn't see myself as someone who had that sort of leadership qualities, and it was actually intimidating to want to join or approach the organization and say, how can I help? How can I join? So I think, on the side of ground-up initiatives, non-profit organizations, I think we have a duty to make the space welcoming and approachable for people who are passionate about different social issues to be able to avail themselves and to volunteer with us as well. Another thing I would say is, I think over the course of starting my own ground-up initiative and volunteering with different organizations, I was really surprised to see friends who I thought wouldn't be passionate about certain issues of volunteering step forward and serve as well. And I remember one of them actually was a close friend who actually didn't really believe in the idea of social inequality, but he took a chance, joined us for one of our programs, and through his conversations with the students that we were working with, had a very different view of how different the privilege that he had growing up was from the kid. And it actually changed his perspective on social justice and social inequality very much from that point onwards. I think I've seen similar examples across different organizations, and even in my own volunteering journey, meeting different volunteers from other organizations who had similar perspective changing experiences. So I would say, Singaporeans aren't apathetic. They just haven't probably found the right organization to volunteer with, or perhaps they might have had a bad experience volunteering with a specific ground-up initiative or non-profit organization.
Do you think that, I guess, as a society, or even where other stakeholders such as government or non-profits can help better alleviate that situation, right? So I think jumping on from Tavis's point on CIP, there's the government's mandated a CIP, but there's a lot of views saying that, it shouldn't really mandate people to volunteer or clock in 100 hours, right? And it's very interesting. It's how do we solve this problem of how do we encourage people to be kind, but also don't do it in necessarily a paternalistic way?
Wow, that's a difficult question. Frankly speaking, I never saw myself as someone who would volunteer extensively, start a ground-up initiative, or being very involved with the non-profit scene. One reason was, of course, CIP. I didn't enjoy the CIP activities that I did in secondary school and even in junior college. But I think it was really a process of self-discovery as I, took part in different activities, took part in different organizations. I became more self-aware of what sort of interests or causes made me I resonated with. And I think for a lot of students, especially in their formative years in schools, CIP should be a platform where they are exposed to different causes and different activities to contribute to society meaningfully, rather than a requirement that they have to clear. Because when you obligate students to do something on top of the myriad of obligations they have, whether it's academics, extracurriculars, they would, I guess, develop a sense of resentment, especially if they don't actually understand why they're doing it. So again, I think, when you are bringing students out to different community involvement programs, you also have to explain and articulate clearly why they are doing what they are doing and what does it matter for them to truly appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think through the many CIP projects that I was involved in, I'm trying to recall now, as well in secondary school, right? It was these little things that made me realize, I think one, how privileged I am to be in a position to try out what kind of CIP programs I want to be a part of, right? The fact that I can decide, okay, I want to help here, I want to help there. Even having that choice in itself was a very privileged position that I was in. Something that in retrospect, I'm also a lot more aware of now. Something that I tend to tell my friends when they ask me about my experiences volunteering and why I volunteer, right? It's because I once had this conversation with someone at the hawker center. So this uncle was talking to me about the struggles of the elderlies who are low income, right? And how they are still working as cleaners in the hawker centers. It was through that conversation that the realization kind of hit me as well, that, okay, look, we as a society, we are progressing really quickly, right? Economically, socially, culturally, right? We are progressing at a really rapid pace. But as a country and as a society, if we are progressing at a pace so fast that we are also leaving a group of people behind and we're not allowing them to catch up, or we're not bringing them together with us, so if we're progressing at their expense, or if we're progressing and forgetting about these people, are we really progressing together, right, as a country and as a society? I think that thought really, really struck a chord with me. It didn't really sit very well. I was like, wow, okay, I really cannot know this and not do anything about it, right? So I think that was, in a way, the tipping point for me to say that, no, I must do more for my community, for the people around me, for the elderly who are low income, who can't support themselves. What can I do, right? I think this was something that triggered my want to help out the community and to volunteer. So going back to your question, right, as to what can we or the system or what policies can be implemented such that people would want to volunteer and be more involved in the community. Big question. Honestly, I think it's very difficult to give a definitive answer, but I do think that as youths who are actively involved, in a way, I guess it's also on us, right? To spread the word, to show people why our work's important, who directly or indirectly benefits from the help that we give, why is help needed. I think it's through this understanding and not through this mandate, right? To say that you have to do this, but I guess in a way to engage your peers to join you as well. On this journey, perhaps it could be a little bit easier to get people to want to volunteer and to see for themselves, right? I think empathy and compassion also comes from understanding. Without one, there isn't the other. Only then can we really rally people together, and to help out where help is needed.
Yeah, I think, just to add on to Tavis' point, if you're talking about what can the state do or what can we do, of course, I think, it's really to build platforms where people who are interested about different causes or similar causes can come together to discuss and to meet each other so that they can find potential collaborators to work on issues together. I mean, that's my personal journey in starting Access, which I thought was something a lot of youth struggle with, because they have an idea or they want to do something, but they don't have a few friends that would encourage them to go further, to pursue the idea and to take the idea to an actual project. And I think that's the government has that ability and the resource to organize different platforms and to be a convener of the space, I guess.
Yes.
But it does seem that like volunteering for like both of you have really been, it's a transformative experience, right? And like from your experience, is there like, would you say there's this one defining experience that really changed your perspective on how you help, or like really further motivated you to continue helping? Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's one experience. I think it's this collective understanding. So when I volunteer and I meet different people, when I hear their different stories, when I see their different struggles and I see where I can help, right? I think it's understanding how our lives are really very interconnected, how policies affect people or don't affect people, right? And how certain policies do help people as well. And I think it's just seeing how everything comes together and how volunteering does play a part for these people and their lives directly, right? I think it's looking at it as a whole, for me at least, the entire experience and understanding all these different narratives, individual and collective narratives, right? That made me all the more a little bit more entrenched, right, and wanting to continue to volunteer. In my essay, I talk about these two encounters. One with this little boy. He's not even P5 yet, I think. And he's really very enthusiastic. So he loves learning. He loves volunteering. And seeing his kind of energy to really go to these houses and really spread this joy, right? This really innocent joy. I think that's something that also spurs me. Looking at how the elderly really look forward to talking to me when I come with these items, right? And just sharing a little bit about their own lives and how their week or their day has been. Just seeing how I'm able to be that avenue for them, right? I think that's also something that spurs me to want to keep going back and to help. But lastly, it's also the community of volunteers, I think. When I meet them, when we get the items ready, right, when we see each other again, when we have this familiar nod, right, knowing that, oh, well, we're back here again, we know the drill, we know what to do. And then we help where it's needed. Like, for example, when one block is done, when another block still needs help, then we with no questions asked, we just run over, quite literally run over just to help them and make sure that items are being delivered. And having this community of volunteers helping out wholeheartedly, I think that also spurs me on to want to go back. So I think it's really on many fronts. It hasn't just been one moment, but I think it's the entire moment in its entirety.
Yeah, I think for me, there's really a few aspects here. In the work that I do with Access, I think one of the most heartwarming moments was when the teacher that we have worked with shared with us how she has noticed like her students being more motivated in school. And because she has seen that pre-program and post-program perspective of how the student performed. One of them got the chance to do a short work attachment at SGAG, and also got to share about his experience on a radio station. And for him, that was one of the first few opportunities that he received in school, and that motivated him. Even till today, like we just heard from the school that he's doing well in school and he's gonna pursue a certain course in a polytechnic, which he really wanted to do. So it's those sort of stories that keep me going and remind me of why the work we do is important. I think the other part is I think I've been very privileged to hear the insights from employers or organizations that we work with. And in the sense that some of them don't really believe that 15-year-olds can do much in the workplace, or I guess they think of how they were like when they were 15 years old, perhaps not so motivated and perhaps not so well resourced or digitally literate. And then after the program, they come and tell me that, wow, 15 years olds these days are very proficient in how they use computers, are very knowledgeable about the world, about what's going on around them. And actually, when you give them a certain task, they are quite motivated and very willing to pursue it. And, that sort of ethic or personality, I guess, gets employers or motivates employers to stay on with us. But I'm really happy when employers shift their perspective about what 15-year-old students or neighborhood secondary school students can do in the workplace. And I guess finally, as Tavis mentioned rightly, having a strong community of volunteers alongside you is super important. I think in my essay I wrote about how my community of volunteers in Gambas motivated me to come back week in, week out, during A-levels, even in the army after booking out, and even when I'm really busy in university. And it's because I see people who are working, holding jobs, and managing other volunteering responsibilities come back in, week out, support residents who have troubles with different government aid schemes beyond office hours and like really late into the night, and picking up calls and replying those emails. And of course, having some of them as personal mentors who I look to for advice in my own volunteering journey, in my own academic and professional journey as well. I think that sort of community is what I hope to build as well in my own nonprofit organization and in the communities that I belong to.
And honestly, all those reflections really, it just fills my heart with so much warmth, and like how much like it really transforms you, like the way you guys plug yourselves in the community. And I think like for those listening in, for those who are listening in, what would be your advice to them for them to take the step in to start their own volunteering journey or just help out the community?
So I think just now we talked about community involvement programs, right? For me, that was a bad first experience into the world of volunteering. But I would say that, at the very least, it taught me what I wouldn't want to do in the future. And so I would encourage people to keep trying different things, many things. And eventually you might find something that you are deeply passionate about. For me, I've dipped my toes in environmental causes, community building, people's association, and then finally, I guess, settling into youth development and social mobility. And so I think everyone has their own journey and process of discovery that they will have to embark on. And it's ultimately, at the end of the day, it's really not a race to see who can clock the most hours first, but it's really to see who can stay the game longest, who can stay the journey longest, I would say. So I would say it's really a process of self-discovery as you figure out what sort of cause, organization, team, and role you would like to be part of. And I think there's a few ways to short-circuit it, right? So for me, talking to people who are aggregators and connectors have been a really big part of that journey of self-discovery, because a lot of them have been part of different organizations, done different causes, and they will be able to share with you their experiences of what it's been like, what resonated or didn't resonate with them, what sort of organizations have been positive in their own volunteering journey. And I guess because they have that myriad of experiences, they could give you some insight to how different organizations and causes might be more suitable for yourself. And lastly, it's really about having personal mentors who, I guess, know you more intimately on a personal level and might have a more objective, or I guess a more independent perspective of what you might be more inclined or suitable towards in your own volunteering journey, whether it comes to like project management, social media, building a ground-up initiative from start, partnerships, outreach, etc. So really, it's not a race, but a process of self-discovery, and stay the journey.
I think for me, an advice I would give to all of you tuning in who want to, start volunteering or to figure out how to begin volunteering. is perhaps begin with the people around you. Figure out, what areas are in need of help and what areas you really care about, and how can you be involved with these causes. Perhaps I'll also leave all of you with a question, right? What kind of a community, what kind of a society, or what kind of a country would we be living in if people did not care? I think it won't be a very pleasant one.
Yeah.
I think volunteering for these different causes really comes from a position of care. I think when people truly care about those around us, right? When we care about people around us, then that's where volunteering becomes a no-brainer in a sense, right? We know that someone else really could use the kind of care that we can afford them as well. Someone else would really appreciate the time that you take out of your day or your week or your month, right? To support them, to help them. Think about different people in different positions. So it could be people, for example, parents who have to work jobs and can't take care of kids, right? So if you're someone who really loves engaging with children, then how can you engage with these little childcare centers, right, to take care of kids and volunteer with them? If you're someone who really cares about the elderly, then how can you get involved with that? If you are someone who really cares about the environment, then what kind of causes are there out there that you can help with and champion? I think the bottom line is that I truly, sincerely believe that all of us care for something, for someone larger than ourselves, right? Get involved. It's never too late. Get your friends to do it with you as well. Your friends will also keep, one of you, or rather each of you will keep one another accountable as well in the process. And if anything, it's also a morale booster, right? It will spur you on to want to continue volunteering and helping out, or to even do more in the future. Adding on to what Adriel has said, right? The process of self-discovery. In as much as you learn about yourself, you will also learn about the people around you and the community around you. In as much as volunteering is both internal and external, the process of understanding and growth is also very much mutual. So yeah, don't be afraid to volunteer. Know that there are volunteers out there already, and we could always use more volunteers just like yourselves. Yeah.
I think fundamentally, really, volunteering and then change, of course, just starts with yourself. And I think that really is an apt conclusion to our podcast. Really, thank you so much to Tavis and Adriel for joining us today and sharing your thoughts. And thank you so much to the listener as well for tuning in. This is the conclusion for the Ground Up podcast. You can read more in our Ground Up booklet. We can read Tavis's and Adriel's essay. And this is Hazim, your moderator. And with that, follow us, The Birthday Collective, on YouTube, Spotify, as well as on Facebook to listen more updates.
Thank you for listening to Collectively Speaking by The Birthday Collective. We aim to be a brain, heart, and hand trust for Singapore, focusing on the gifts we can offer to future generations. To find out more, visit our website at thebirthdaycollective.com and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Birthday Collective. If you enjoyed this episode, do subscribe and drop us a review.